Ozi vezimrat ya,
Page 326, you will find the words of Ozi vezimrat ya, vayhili lishua. Adonai is my strength, my song of praise, for God has saved my life. Our opening song.
Ozi
vezimrat ya, vayhili lishua.
Ozi vezimrat ya, vayhili
lishua. Ozi vezimrat ya, vayhili lishua. Ozi vezimrat ya, vayhili lishua. Ozi vezimrat ya, vayhili lishua. Ozi vezimrat ya, vayhili lishua. Ozi vezimrat ya, vayhili lishua. Ozi vezimrat ya, vayhili lishua. Ozi vezimrat ya, vayhili lishua. Ozi vezimrat ya, vayhili lishua. Page 326. At this hour, Israel stands as one in prayer. All Jews on earth unite through memory and hope. A people unafraid, unvanquished, says to God, this people you have formed still lives to tell your praise. Still lives to share this teaching with our youth. Our ancient journey has not reached its end. The faith implanted at our people's birth is realized from age to age, our sacred covenant. This people, few in number, ventured forth to carve a lonely path through wilderness, with dreams of vines and fig trees, justice in the gates, the land at peace. And still we make our way across the desert. This people you have formed still lives to walk before you. Exiled once to Babylon, we learned the unity of God. A second time, dispersed by Rome, we learned that humankind is one. Hero Israel, the call still sounds. Eternity is ever present in your midst, a heritage of sacred purpose in your heart. Your past tells a story for all peoples. Your future holds a promise still unfolding. At this hour, Israel stands as one in prayer. All Jews on earth unite through memory and hope. We look at one another and we know who we are. We look to our Creator and know our strength. In pursuit of truth, this people lives to serve the Most High for the sake of life. Behind us, pain and glory. Before us, holy work. Timeless words command us. Toward eternity, we gaze. If you're able, we rise for the Amidah on page 360.
Adonai
להושיע מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נובלים ורפי חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות ומי דומה לך, אך מלך מימידו מחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים זוכה יצוריו לחיים, ברחמים ונאמן אתה להחיות הכול. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אמן.
Page 368.
Kedusha. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמנו, כך כתוב ביד למיך, וקראת
We will teach your greatness, Lador Vador, from generation to generation and to the end of time. We will affirm your holiness. Our God, your praise shall ever be on our lips, for your power is boundless, sovereign, and holy. Please be seated. We continue silently through page 411.
Say shalom, shalom, bimromav. We continue on page 412 with Slichot and Vidui, prayers of forgiveness and confession. Krachem av al banim, rachem Adonai al yireav. As parents show tenderness to their children, may you show mercy to those who worship you. Like the heavens that tower above the earth, your love is powerful for those who revere you. Liberation is a gift from God, a blessing upon your people. You are the God of all we can perceive, our haven, the God of Yaakov. And you are the God of all that is beyond our perception. The one who has faith in you is fortunate. Sovereign God, show us the way to freedom. Answer us on this day of our calling out to you. Moses prayed to God, as you have been faithful to this people ever since Egypt, please forgive their failings now, in keeping with your boundless love. Together at the bottom of 414, our God and God of our ancestors, we are your people and you are our God. We are your children and you are our father, our mother. We are the people who serve you and you call us to serve. We are your community and you are our portion. We are your legacy and you are our purpose. We are your flock, and you are our shepherd. We are your vineyard, and you watch over us. We are your work, and you are our maker. We are your beloved, and you are our lover. We are your treasure, and you are the one we cherish. We are your people, and you reign over us. We offer you our words, and you offer us yours. So forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
Ki anu amecha, anu vanecha, anu nachalatecha.
We continue on page 416 as we rise for Vidui. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, tavo lifanecha tefilatenu. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence. May our prayers reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. Of these wrongs we are guilty. We betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely. We are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander, we devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey. We abuse, we defy, we corrupt, we commit crimes. We are hostile, we are stubborn, we are immoral. We kill, we spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. Our turning away from your mitzvot and laws of goodness is a hollow pursuit. You are just concerning all that happens in our lives. Your way is the way of truth, while ours leads to error. What can we say to you whose existence is beyond time and space? What words of ours can reach your realm beyond the clouds, beyond heaven itself? Every hidden mystery, every revelation, surely you know them all. Together, you know the secrets of the universe and the secrets of the human heart. You know and understand us, for you examine our inner lives. Nothing is concealed from you, nothing hidden from your sight. Eternal One, our God and God of our ancestors, we pray that this be your will. Forgive all our wrongs, pardon us for every act of injustice, help us atone for all our moral failures. Please be seated. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'zadon uvishgaga, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'shivuat shav. The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through insincere promises. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'flilut, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'kalut rosh. The ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world by making light of serious matters. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'yetzer hara, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha be'enat ramot. The ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through condescension. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha behirhur halev, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'dibur peh. The ways we have wronged you through our innermost thoughts, and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bechachash ubechazav, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha behonat reah. The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'sinat chinam, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'vidui peh. The ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through hypocrisy. Ve'al kulam Elohas lichot, slach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha begalui uvesater, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bivli da'at. The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world through our thoughtlessness. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bechilul Hashem, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha betumat shvatayim. The ways we have wronged you by profaning your name in public, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bir chilut, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bezilzul horim umorim. The ways we have wronged you through gossip and rumor, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha betzarut ayin, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'masa u'v'matan. The ways we have wronged you through narrow-mindedness, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha begilui arayot, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'ma'akav u'mishteh. The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'tshumed yad, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'ritzat raglaim lehara. The ways we have wronged you by betraying trust, and harm we have caused in your world through impulsive acts of malice. Ve'al kulam Elohas lichot, salach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
We continue with Avinu Malkeinu on page 428. If you're able, please rise. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu Lefanecha, Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, we have strayed and sinned before you. Avinu Malkeinu, Ein Lanu Melech Ela Ata, Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu, Aseh Imanu Laman Shemecha, Avinu Malkeinu, act towards us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu, Chadesh Aleinu Shana Tova, Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, Zachor Ki Afar Anachnu. Avinu Malkeinu, remember we are but dust of the earth. Avinu Malkeinu, Tahi Hasha'ah Hazot Sha'at Rachamim Ve'et Ratzon Milfanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, let this hour in your presence be a time of compassion and acceptance. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol Aleinu Va'al Aleinu V'tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families. Avinu Malkeinu, Aseh Laman Tevuchim Al Yehudecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act for the sake of those slain for their devotion to you. Avinu Malkeinu, Aseh Laman Harogim Al Shem Kuchecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act for the sake of those killed because they were Jews. Avinu Malkeinu, Aseh Laman Bai Ba'esh Ufbamayim Al Kiddush Shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act for the sake of those who suffered fire and water to sanctify your name. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu V'anenu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim, Aseh Manu Tzedakah V'chesed V'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Now. Avinu Malkeinu, Ameinu Vaneinu, Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim. Avinu Malkeinu, Ameinu Vaneinu, Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim. Asim anu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu. Asim anu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu V'anenu, Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu V'anenu, Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim.
Aleinu. Ours the duty to listen, and ours the duty to praise. Ours is the duty to respond to what we hear, to raise questions, and build houses of study in which to ask them. To praise the Creator for creating, to praise the Creator for rest, to praise the God of Torah for the challenge of Torah, to praise the God of eternity for every hour, every day, to plant and build, to seek peace and pursue it. Ours the duty to do justice, ours the duty to be Israel, to fix the broken, to open doors of hope, to bow before a commanding power that speaks to us from Sinai, from history, from deep within the heart. Hear, O Israel, it is not your duty to complete the work, but you may not turn away. We continue with the great Aleinu on page 432. Aleinu leshabeach la'adon ha'kol latit gedula ve'yotzeh bereshit shelo asanu
משפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, בכל עלינו ככל עמונה,
And so, Adonai, our God, we look to you, hoping soon to behold the splendor of your power revealed, a world free of idolatry and false gods, a world growing more perfect through divine governance, a world in which all human beings make known your name, while those who do evil turn toward you instead. As the prophet announced, the Eternal shall reign forever and ever over the earth, and on that day the Eternal shall be one, and God's name shall be one.
We continue with our special service for Eila Ezkara. Not in the machzor. Okay, for now, you'll hear these stories orally as our people pass down stories from generation to generation. And this is how we originally prayed. The clergy just spoke the words and everyone listened. So we'll do old school for a while till you have it in front of you. Every generation tells the martyrdom story of Eila Ezkara in its own way. The traditional Eila Ezkara recalls the martyrdom of 10 rabbis executed by Rome in the 1st and 2nd centuries of the Common Era, and it venerates those who were martyred. This Eila Ezkara frames the themes of life, death, and remembrance differently from that of our forebears. In this Eila Ezkara, we recall women and men who responded, Hineni, here I am. They gave their lives while struggling to right wrongs, make peace, and save others from humiliation, harm, or death. We remember them today not as martyrs and not as saints, but as human beings defined by their moral choices and their sense of responsibility. These we remember, the ones whose lives were shaped by a mitzvah, you must not remain indifferent. The ones who lost their lives through devotion to a mitzvah, justice, justice shall you pursue. The ones who embodied through deed and dedication a mitzvah, choose life. I remember these, artists of the soul, architects of redemption, the activists and advocates of justice and beauty. And these I remember, the ones who mended the broken, brought healing to the wounded, fought back despair with the solace of faith. The ones who breathed life into a prayer to establish in the world the sovereignty of dignity. On this holy day, we remember 10 sages. Though many other Jews lost their lives in the uprisings against Rome, the courage of these 10 has been recalled for centuries, and these are their names: Rabbi Yishmael, the high priest, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, prince of Israel, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Hananiah ben Taradion, Rabbi Chutzpitz, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, Rabbi Hanina ben Chachanai, Rabbi Yeshevav the scribe, Rabbi Yehuda ben Dama, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. For our 10 sages, we read the words of Lamentations. For these I weep. My eyes flow like streams of water. For a comforting presence is far from me, the one who restores my soul. Therefore choose life. Therefore choose life that you and your children may live. Therefore choose life that you and your children may live. By loving the eternal God and heeding God's commands, holding fast to God, and living a life inspired by our teachings. We are on page 3. We look to the present now to recognize and recall those from our own time whose sacrifices have martyred them. They chose to affirm God by their courage and by risking their own life to make this world worthy of God's divine presence. And these were their names: Eli Cohen, the town of Lidice, Raoul Gustav Wallenberg, Alison Krauss, Jeffrey Miller, Sarah Scheuer, William Schroeder, Harvey Milk, Stephen Sotloff, Ben Linder. Eli Cohen. Eli Cohen was born in Alexandria to a devout Jewish and Zionist family in 1924. However, in December 1956, Cohen was forced to leave the country and he emigrated to Israel. In Israel, he was eventually recruited by Mossad and charged with infiltrating the Syrian government, which he did with great success. His most famous achievement, while embedded within the Syrian government, happened during his tour of the Golan Heights. While touring with the military, he collected intelligence on their fortifications and feigned sympathy for the soldiers exposed to the sun. Cohen convinced them to have trees planted at every position. The trees were used as targeting markers by the Israeli military during the Six-Day War and enabled Israel to capture the Golan Heights in 2 days with relative ease. The intelligence he gathered on that trip shortly before his arrest is said to have been an important factor in Israel's success in the Six-Day War. Before Cohen was executed, he wrote one final letter. These are some of the words he offered. I am begging you, my dear Nadia, not to spend your time in weeping about something already past. Concentrate on yourself, looking forward for a better future. Ela Ezkara. On Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacy. Their legacy is in our hands. The town of Lidice. Operation Anthropoid was the code name for the Czechoslovakian assassination of General Reinhard Heydrich, who was the head of the Reich Main Security Office. Heydrich was one of the most powerful men in Nazi Germany and was given overall charge of the final solution of Jews in Europe. This operation was carried out in Prague on May 27, 1942. His death led to a wave of merciless reprisals by German SS troops, including the destruction of villages and the killing of civilians. One such reprisal was the Lidice massacre. In June of 1942, Adolf Hitler and Heinrich Himmler ordered the complete destruction of the village of Lidice. All 173 men over 15 years of age from the village were executed. The 184 women and 88 children were deported to concentration camps. A few children considered racially suitable for Germanization were handed over to SS families. The rest were sent to the Chelmno extermination camp, where they were gassed to death. Ela Ezkara. On Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacy. Their legacy is in our hands. Raoul Gustav Wallenberg. While serving as Sweden's special envoy in Budapest, Wallenberg issued protective passports and sheltered Jews in buildings designated as Swedish territory. His actions are thought to have saved thousands of Jews. On January 17, 1945, during the siege of Budapest by the Red Army, Wallenberg was detained by Smersh on suspicion of espionage, and he subsequently disappeared. He was later reported to have died on July 17, 1947, while imprisoned by the KGB secret police in Moscow. Due to his courageous actions on behalf of the Hungarian Jews, Raoul Wallenberg has been the subject of numerous humanitarian honors in the decades following his presumed death. In 1981, U.S. Congressman Tom Lantos, himself one of those saved by Wallenberg, sponsored a bill making Wallenberg an honorary citizen of the United States. He was the second person ever to receive this honor after Winston Churchill. Ela Ezkara. On Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacy. Their legacy is in our hands. Allison Krauss, Jeffrey Miller, Sandra Scheuer, and William Schroeder. When President Nixon announced the expansion of the Vietnam War into Cambodia on April 30th, 1970, students on campuses across the country protested. At Kent State, students broke windows of some of the businesses in the city of Kent, which caused the mayor to summon the National Guard. On Monday, May 4th, at a noontime protest, demonstrators defied dispersal orders from the guardsmen, with some of the students hurling rocks at them from a distance. After an extended standoff, 28 guardsmen fired 67 rounds in 13 seconds at a group of unarmed student demonstrators and nearby bystanders. 4 were killed, 9 were wounded. Just one day before Allison Krauss was killed, she said, "Flowers are better than bullets." The other students killed in the shootings were Jeffrey Glenn Miller, Sandra Leen Scheuer, and William Knox Schroeder. Of these 4 dead, 3 of them, Allison, Jeffrey, and Sandra, were Jewish. While all of them were dedicated to their faith, it was Krauss who stated publicly that she was opposed to the U.S. war against Vietnam because of her upbringing at a Reform synagogue. Every year since the early 1980s, the Kent State Hillel has been reciting Kaddish for those killed in the Kent State shootings. If the shootings themselves were not a Jewish tragedy, the first commemorations of them were overwhelmingly so. As one alumnus said, what happened that day was not a Jewish event. The response to May 4th, in a lot of ways, though, became a Jewish event. Eila Ezkara, on Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us, "These you shall remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacy. Their legacy is in our hands."
Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk was born in Woodmere, New York, and reared in a small middle-class Jewish family. For much of his life, Milk had stayed quiet about his personal life. But that all changed when he moved to San Francisco and opened Castro Camera, putting his life and work right in the heart of the city's gay community. It was there that Milk found his voice as a leader and activist, and after multiple attempts, he finally won a seat on the San Francisco City County Board in 1977. His inauguration meant that he was not only the city's first openly gay officer, but was also one of the first openly gay individuals to be elected to office in the United States. While Milk was loved by many, there was one man in particular who despised him, Dan White. Dan White had been on the board of supervisors, but had resigned because of his hatred of Milk and a new bill that Milk helped pass into law that afforded more rights to the LGBTQ community. On November 27, 1978, Milk was murdered by White, along with Mayor George Moscone, who had refused to reinstate White. Friends of Milk had commented that he wasn't a religious Jew, but he was always proud of being Jewish, and that his sense of being Jewish played a role for him in his involvement in civil rights. Indeed, as with the feminist movement, Jews played leading roles in the early days of the gay rights movement and continue to do so. Eila Ezkara, on Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us, "These you shall, your lives, their deaths, their legacy. Their legacy is in our hands." Stephen Sotloff. Stephen Sotloff was a grandson of Holocaust survivors who inspired him to be a voice for the voiceless and to become a journalist. He saw his work in this field as a way of fulfilling the Jewish command to seek justice and to help heal the world. His career began during the Arab Spring, and his work took him to Syria, Egypt, Turkey, Libya, and Bahrain. Sotloff's journalistic work in Syria, uncovering the suffering of many of its people, which led to the massive Syrian refugee crisis, is in large part what earned him the title of the Voice for the Voiceless by Time, The Telegraph, and the NBC News. He was described by those who knew him as a gentle man who was driven to report on the humanitarian dimensions of the conflicts of the Middle East. In August of 2013, Stephen was kidnapped in Aleppo and held captive by militants from ISIS. Sotloff fasted secretly during Yom Kippur in September of 2013 during his captivity by feigning illness. Almost a year after that Yom Kippur, Stephen Sotloff was executed publicly on video by Mohammed Emwazi, who was described by the media as Jihadi John. The memorial contains some excerpts from the letters that Sotloff smuggled out to his family while held in captivity when he realized he might not make it out alive. Some of the words are, "Do what makes you happy. Be where you are happy. Love and respect each other. Don't fight over nonsense. Hug each other every day. Eat dinner together. Live your life to the fullest and pray to be happy. Stay positive and patient. Everyone has two lives. The second one begins when you realize you have only one." Eila es Kara. On Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their deaths, their legacies. Their legacy is in our hands. Ben Linder. Ben Linder was a young Jewish engineer from Portland, Oregon, and all he really wanted was for his life to make a difference. He wanted to contribute something important, something of service to those in need, something of his own to give back to others. In his 3.5 years in Nicaragua, that is exactly what he did. He left his home in Oregon to move to Nicaragua and develop small hydroelectric plants bringing electricity to villages in northern Nicaragua for the first time. The challenges were enormous: battles with agency bureaucracies, uncertain water supplies through the dry and wet seasons, logistical challenges that required great ingenuity, the struggles of trying to fit into isolated communities where he was decidedly the stranger, and always around him the dangers of war, the fears of imminent attack by Contras bent on destroying any efforts to make a successful Nicaraguan revolution. Ben Linder's dream was cut down when he was only 27 years old. Linder was ambushed by the Contra on April 28, 1987. The ambush was part of a strategy to undermine support of the Sandinistas by destroying any benefits the revolution brought to the poorest of Nicaraguans and demonstrating the cost to the people if they continued to support their government. In a journal entry dated October 5, 1984, Ben wrote the words of Rabbi David Einhorn, a pioneering Reform rabbi of the 1800s. "When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from within, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters into our lives, then you live within our hearts, and we through righteousness behold your presence." Eila es Kara. On Yom Kippur, the voice of sacred history calls to us. These you shall remember, their lives, their death, their legacy. Their legacy is in our hands. May the memories of all these Tzaddikim, all these upright and just people, continue to be as a blessing to us. And may we remember them alongside all the others, Jews and those of other communities who died for the sake of justice, compassion, and peacefulness. May we look forward to a time when we can say that no more names need be added to the rolls of martyrs, because no one will be killed among those who act for peace and justice. At a peace rally in Tel Aviv, Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated by a Jewish radical opponent of his peace plan. In his pocket was a copy of the song Shir LaShalom, a song for peace.
Tenu Hashem esh la'alot, laboker leha'ir, hazaka shebatfilot, otanu lo tachzir, mi asher kavanero, שירי הניצחון ולא שירי הלל. לכן רק שירו שיר השלום, נטל חשוב תפילה. שיר השלום את זעקתו, תנו לשמש לעלות, לבוקר להאיר. חזקה שבתפילות אותנו לא תחזיר. בדרך הבנות כי לא חלום ובכל הכיכרות הביאו רק שלום. לכן רק שירו שיר השלום, אל תלחשו תפילה. לכן רק שירו שיר השלום וצעקתו שלום, 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 שלום. שירו שיר השלום, אל תלחשו תפילה. לכן רק שירו שיר השלום וצעקתו שלום.
We continue with Seder Kriyat HaTorah on page 328. It shall come to pass in the fullness of time that the mountain of the house of God shall be established as the highest mountain and raised above the hills, and all nations shall flow to it. Then many people shall say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Eternal, to the house of the God of Jacob." And they shall say, "Teach us your ways, that we may walk in your paths." Together we give thanks today for a Torah of life, the way of kindness, mercy, and truth. May compassion be our source of sustenance now, as in our people's past. May our souls withstand times of crisis, and our hearts the inclination to evil. May the covenant of Abraham and Sarah strengthen our will to do what is right. May the qualities of mercy and goodness, love and forgiveness flow through our lives. And let us be strong in a perilous world. Let us open our hearts to the path of Torah.
ויהי בצהרון ויאמר משה
Please rise.
אדוני ויפוזו אויביך וירוסו משנאיך מפניך כי בציון תצא תורה כי בציון תצא תורה
Shana Tova, and got a couple hours to go. I hope you have a Gemar Chatima Tova. The Torah reading for this afternoon can be found on page 338 in your Machzor. And I hope you will turn to it and take a look at it, because what's in there is very important. This is part of the section in Leviticus that we call the Holiness Code, where it's kind of a list of all the kinds of things you can do in order to be holy, that you should do in order to be holy, and the juxtapositions of there are ritual things and there are personal ethical things sort of intermingled through this piece, which is why it's so interesting. So for the honor of our first Torah reader, it's my pleasure to call not a high school student, as we've customarily had, but an alumna, and her name is Zoe Dressner. And for our first aliyah, it's my pleasure to call Lori Ginsburg.
Asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el kol adat b'nei Yisrael, ve'amarta alehem kedoshim tihiyu, ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem, ish imo ve'aviv tira'u ve'shabtotai tishmoru, ani Adonai Elohechem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
For our next aliyah, it's my pleasure to call Andrea Schoen.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Al tifnu el ha'elilim, Elohei masecha lo tasu lachem, ani Adonai Elohechem. V'chi tizbachu, zeva shlamim l'Adonai, yirtzonchem tizbachu. Bayom zivchachem yachel u'mimacharat, v'hanotar ad yom hashlishi, ba'esh yisarev.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'hayei olanu natan b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
For our third aliyah, it's my pleasure to call Leah Kravitz.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Ve'im he'achol yachel bayom hashlishi pigolhu lo yeratzeh ve'ochlav avono yisa ki et kodesh Adonai chilel v'nichrata hanefesh hahi me'yameha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
For our next Torah reader, it's my pleasure to call Andrew Flatt. And for our fourth Aliyah, it's my great pleasure to call Ricky Stein.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamborah. Baruch le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bocha banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ukutzrachem et katzir artzachem lo techale ha'at tzadcha lekitzor v'alech ket katzircha el telaket v'charmacha lo ta'olael ufered charmacha o telaket v'ani v'loger ta'azov otam ani Adonai Elohechem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
For our next Aliyah, it's my pleasure to call Paula Kaplan Reese.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamborah.
Baruch Adonai le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamborach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Tignovu velo tachachashu velo tashakru yishba amito velo tashavu vishmi lishkor vechilalta et shem Elohecha ani Adonai lo ta'ashok et re'echa velo tigzol lo talin Paulat sachir itcha ad boker. Lo tiglel cheresh v'lifnei iver lo titain miksol ve'yeret me Elohecha ani Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
For our next Aliyah, it's my pleasure to call Amy Warner.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavarach.
Baruch Adonai hamborach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hambarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Lo ta'ashu ivel mishpat lashte panei dal vele tadar panei gadol basedek ta'ashpat amitecha lo telech Rachil ba'amicha lo ta'amod al adam reacha ani Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For our maftir, it's my pleasure to call Malcolm Bush.
ישמר חפצנו, יברך משה בן דוד לב הלוי משנה רוזה, שעולה לכבוד התורה.
Shouldn't wear the morning reading the list. For who Adonai Baruch. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'charbona b'kol ha'amim natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Lo tasana et achicha bilvavecha tokiach et amitecha velo teshe alav techayet. Lo taktikom velo tater et bnei imecha vehavta lareach kamocha ani Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Zezot Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael.
Yad Moshe. Please rise.
Vezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael. Oh, be Adonai v'yad Moshe. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai.
We continue the service on page 342 with the blessings before the Haftarah, which is the book of Jonah. As has been my custom, I want to thank the rabbis and the congregation for again affording me the honor of Maftir Yenu, as I learned it years ago at Avasachim, carrying on a tradition in my maternal family that goes back probably to the 30s. And ever since then, with Grandpa Hoffman, there's been at least one member of the family reading Jonah in the community. Blessed are you, our God eternal, supreme power of the universe, who called forth noble prophets to speak the truth. Blessed are you, God of eternity, who delights in the Torah, in Moses, God's servant, in Israel, God's people, and in prophets of truth and right. And the word of Adonai came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh, and proclaim against it, for their evil deeds have risen up before me. But Jonah got up to flee to Tarshish, away from the presence of Adonai. And he went down to Jaffa and found there a ship heading for Tarshish. And he paid its fare and went down into it to head with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of Adonai. But Adonai hurled a great wind upon the sea, a storm at sea so great that the ship was in danger of being shattered to pieces. And the sailors were frightened, cried out, each to his own god, and flung the ship's cargo into the sea to lighten their load. But Jonah had gone down into the hold, the lower deck of the vessel, and he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. And the captain approached him and said to him, "What are you doing sound asleep? Get up, call to your God. Perhaps the God will be kind to us, and we will not perish." And they said, each man to his companion, "Let us cast lots, that we might know on whose account this evil event has come to us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. And they said to him, "Tell us, you who have brought this evil upon us, what is your trade? Where have you come from? What is your country, and who are your people?" And he said to them, "I am a Hebrew. I revere Adonai, God of heaven, who made sea and dry land." The men felt great fear, and they asked him, "What have you done?" Because the men knew he was fleeing from Adonai, for so he had told them. And they asked him, "What should we do to you to bring calm to the sea around us?" For the sea was growing more and more stormy. So he said to them, "Lift me up and hurl me into the sea, and the sea will calm down for you. For I know that this great storm came upon you because of me." And the crew rowed hard to return to the dry land, but they could not do it, for the sea was raging more and more fiercely around them. And they called out to Adonai, saying, "Please, Adonai, please do not let us perish because of the life of this man, and do not hold us guilty of shedding innocent blood. For you, Adonai, that which you desired, you have brought about." And they lifted Jonah and hurled him into the sea. Then the sea stopped raging. The men revered Adonai, great was their reverence. So they offered to Adonai a sacrifice and made vows. And Adonai provided a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Jonah prayed to Adonai his God from the belly of the fish, and he said, "I called to Adonai in my distress, and God answered me. I cried out from the belly of the netherworld, and you heard my voice. Into the depths you cast me, into the heart of the sea, and the floods engulfed me. All your billowing, breaking waves swept over me, and I thought to myself, I was banished from before your eyes. Will I ever again gaze upon your holy temple? The waters closed in over me, the deep engulfed me. Rushes wrapped around my head. I descended to the low point of the mountains. The gates of the earth closed upon me forever. Yet you, Adonai my God, raised up my life from the pit. When my life fainted away, I called Adonai to mind, and my prayer came to you, to your holy temple. They who cling to empty folly forsake their own welfare. But I, with a shout of thanksgiving, I will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed I will fulfill. Rescue comes from Adonai. Adonai commanded the fish, and it spewed Jonah out upon dry land. And the word of Adonai came to Jonah a second time. Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh, and call out to it the proclamation that I tell you. So Jonah got up and went to Nineveh, according to the word of Adonai. Now Nineveh was a great city of God, 3 days' journey across. And Jonah started out and made his way into the city, the distance of a 1-day walk. And he called out and said, 40 more days and Nineveh shall be overturned. The people of Nineveh trusted in God, and they proclaimed a fast. They put on sackcloth from the richest to the poorest. And the word reached the king of Nineveh, and he got up from his throne, took off his robe, put on sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he cried out and said in Nineveh, by decree of the king and his nobles, no person or beast, of flock or herd, shall taste anything. They shall not graze, and they shall not drink water. They shall be covered with sackcloth, person and beast, and shall call loudly to God. Let all turn back from their evil ways, and from the violence which is in their hands. Who knows? God may turn and relent, turn back from the heat of anger, so that we do not perish. God saw what they did, how they were turning back from their evil ways. And God relented from the evil plan for them and did not carry it out. But to Jonah, this was a great evil, and it made him angry. So he prayed to Adonai, saying, please, Adonai, is this not what I said when I was still in my own country? This is why I fled to Tarshish, to begin with, for I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, endlessly patient and abounding in steadfast love, ready to repent of evil. And now, Adonai, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. And Adonai said, is it good for you to be so angry? Then Jonah left the city, found a place east of the city, made himself a shelter there, and sat under it in the shade until he might see what would become of the city. And Adonai Elohim provided a gourd and made it rise up over Jonah to give shade for his head and rescue him from his evil situation. And Jonah rejoiced with great joy because of the gourd. But at dawn the next day, God provided a worm that attacked the gourd, and it withered. And as the sun rose, God provided an oppressive wind from the east, and the sun beat down on Jonah's head, making him faint. He begged for death, saying, it is better for me to die than to live. Then God said to Jonah, are you good and angry about the gourd? And he said, I am good and angry to the point of death. Then Adonai said, you pitied the gourd, which you neither worked for nor grew, which appeared overnight and perished overnight. Should I then not have compassion for the great city of Nineveh, a place of more than 120,000 human beings, unable to tell their right hand from their left, and many beasts? Blessed are you, our God eternal, supreme power of the universe, rock of all ages, source of justice in all generations, God in whom faithfulness abides, whose word is deed, whose every utterance bespeaks truth and righteousness. Our God eternal, for all of these gifts we thank you and bless you. Torah, worship, the books of the prophets, and this day of atonement, given to us for the sake of pardon and forgiveness, that we might make amends with honor and dignity. Let all life bless your name continually to the end of time, so that your truth will endure forever. Blessed are you, Adonai, sovereign, who forgives our failings and pardons the failings of your people, the house of Israel. You punish our guilt from year to year. You reign in majesty over all the earth. You sanctify the people, Israel, in the day of atonement. Amen.
After we put our Torah away, we will be entering into our service of Yizkor, of memory, for those who have died in this season, particularly in this past year, but also in seasons past. Every year I'm asked, should I stay or should I go? What is the rules? What is it? Is it a Ainahora, as my grandmother would say? If I stay and my parents are still alive, Should I send the kids out? Should I leave? Or should I stay? Here's how I look at it. The superstition that one must leave for Yizkor came from a time period when we believed bad things would happen if you shook hands across the door threshold with somebody else. But people also want to make sure that Yizkor is special and unique for when they say it for the first time. It's up to you ultimately. We have on our list of congregants who have died this past year 3 couples. We have some individuals who don't have anyone left to say Kaddish for them. When I think of Yizkor, I think of not only saying Yizkor for my own loved ones, but as a community coming together to support those who have lost so much in this previous year. And as important as it is to say Yizkor for those who have died, it's also important to be present to help support those who are feeling as though they cannot stand because of the pain and the sadness. I think staying for Yizkor is also a mitzvah, if you have no one to say Yizkor for. But ultimately, the choice is yours, and you can make it freely without any judgment whatsoever. I'm serious about that. We continue on page 352. Yahalu et Shem Adonai ki nizgav shemo levado. All praise God's name, for God's name alone is truly sublime.
Alleluia, et Shem Adonai, ki nizgav shemo levado.
Tov natati lachem torati al ta'azovu. A precious teaching I have given you, my Torah, do not forsake it. The tree of life to those that hold it fast, all who embrace it know happiness. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Take us back, Adonai, let us come back to you. Renew in our time the days of old.
Eitz Chaim hi, lama chazikim ba, v'tomecha meushar.
To ask of death that it never come is futile, but is not futility to pray that when death comes for us, it may take us from a world one corner of which is a little better because we were there. Page 540. Page 546. As the number 7 is a Jewish symbol of wholeness and holiness, our Yizkor service offers 7 ways to reflect on loss and memory, grief and healing. We choose alone and together from among these diverse lights. We continue responsively on page 548. At birth, a miracle, you light the spark in every human soul. Emerging into light, we breathe it in, the neshama, your sacred gift of life. And every day, every breath come to us as a miracle. The light within us, unique and precious, is with us always while we live. When breath has ceased and life has gone, the neshama returns to you, and the spark that lived inside the ones we love, unique and precious, beautiful and good, is theirs no more. Their light is ours. Their radiance now burns in us, eternal flame of memory. So we light candles to keep our love alive, to bring their light into the world, a light unique and precious, ours to treasure while we live, a ner tamid that lights our days and gives us strength to journey through the nights. We continue silently through page 554.
Lo irame rivivot amashe taviv shatu alai alai. Lo irame shatu alai alai. Kuma Adonai lehoshieni. Kuma Adonai lehoshieni. Lo Shesaviv shatu alai alai. Lo iramin Bishatu alai alai. Uma Bishatu alai alai.
Adonai ma'adam v'tadeehu. Adonai, how hard to fathom that we are worthy of your care. How astonishing your awareness of us, for we are like the morning mist, our days a passing shadow. At dawn we flourish anew, by dusk we wither and fade. Sending us back to the earth's dust, you tell us, return, you who belong to humanity. If only we were wise and understood what lies ahead, for when we die we carry nothing away. We leave our possessions behind. So mark the wholehearted, take note of the upright, for there is purpose in a life of integrity. Adonai, you replenish the lives of all who revere you, and those who trust in you will never despair.
Esainai el Havim me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai Ose shamayim
יומם השמש לא יככה וירח בלילה. אדוני ישמרך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך. אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה
Page 561. We continue responsively. When I cry, my voice trembles with fear. When I call out, it cracks with anger. How can I greet the dawn with song when darkness eclipses the rising sun? To whom shall I turn when the clouds of the present eclipse the rays of tomorrow? Turn me around to yesterday, that I may be consoled by its memories. Were not the seas split asunder? Did we not once walk together through the waters to the dry side? Did we not bless the bread that came forth from the heavens? Did your voice not reach my ears and direct my wanderings? The waters, the lightning, the thunder remind me of yesterday's triumphs. Let the past offer proof of tomorrow. Let it be my comforter and guarantor. I have been there before, known the fright, and found your companionship. I enter the sanctuary again to await the echo of your promise. Page 567.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we love. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember.
יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק אשר הם עצמם עבדו ונם. יש אנשים שזה זכרם מאיר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם פה בתוכנו. אורות אלה המאמיקים בחשכת הליל, הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך. הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך, את הדרך.
As we live remember, we remember, we remember, we remember.
We enter into now silent Yizkor through page 579.
בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת אישן ויעירה, ואם רוחי גוויעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא, ואם רוחי גוויעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא. בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת אישן ואם רוחי גוויעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא, ואם רוחי גוויעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא. My soul I give to you, my spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Hold me in your hand. Adonai liv Eloi ra. Adonai liv Eloi ra.
584. God of pity and love, return to this earth. Go not so far away, leaving us to grief. Return, Eternal One, return, come back with the day. Come with the light that we may see once more across this earth's unsettled floor the kindly path, the old and living way. Let us not give way to evil in the night. Let there be God again. Let there be light.
Those who sow in tears, will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Azorim bedima berina yiktoru. Azorim bedima berina yiktoru. Who sow in tears will reap in joy. Azorim bedima sow in tears will reap in joy.
If some messenger were to come to us with the offer that death should be overthrown, but with the one inseparable condition that birth should also cease, if the existing generation were given the chance to live forever, but on the clear understanding that never again would there be a child, a youth, or first love, never again new persons with new hopes, new ideas, new achievements, ourselves for always and never any others, could the answer be in doubt? When we fear death's decree, let these bring us solace, the memory of loved ones who have gone before us, a vision of generations to come through whom we reach far into the future beyond our own lives. Page 593. No other psalm, perhaps no other prayer, but the Kaddish itself is as inseparable from our experience of grief and mourning as the 23rd Psalm. One phrase, so simple and direct, yet emotionally profound, has made it so. Ki ata imadi, for you are with me. Or in the language of an earlier age, for thou art with me. To arrive at those words after passing through the valley of the shadow of death is to know, in the words of Rabbi Joshua Loth-Liebman, that God contains and supports us as a mighty ocean contains and supports the infinitesimal drops of every wave. To arrive at those words is to feel at home in the cosmos, held and comforted, cared for and serene. The 23rd Psalm does not make promises that cannot be kept. The end of all evil, the eradication of suffering and pain, sunshine instead of shadows. It makes but one promise, only this: you are not alone.
Adonai Rawi lo echsad bino sheyar bitzeni al menuchot yenach aleini nafshi shovei yancheni b'magei tzedek yancheni b'magei tzedek l'ma'am shemo. Gam kelech begetz al mavet lo irara ki ata imadi shitecha u'mishantecha ema
Page 595. Together. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God gives me rest in green pasture, guides me beside the restful waters, refreshes my soul, directs me along straight trails for the sake of God's name. Even when I pass through the valley of ominous shadows, I am not frightened, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff calm me, and provide for me even if there are enemies about. Your care exceeds all expectation. My cup overflows. Truly, a generous goodness will pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall be with God as long as I live. Our loved ones live in our broken hearts, and at times that brings some measure of healing. Their acts of kindness and generosity are the inheritance they leave behind. We feel their absence, but the beauty of their lives abide among us. As it is said, the name of one who has died shall not disappear. We think of all of our loved ones now whom we all collectively mourn for. And we also think about the names of our congregants who have died in this past year. Adele Boris, Merv Dickinson, Dr. Arthur Factor, Dr. William Fleeter, Scott Friedman, Elaine Jacob, Sandy Jacob, Leslie Katchen, Stanley Caulfield, Dr. Donald King, Bernard Reinberg, Nancy Reinberg, Melvin Shore, Dr. Michael Silverstein, Stuart Singer, Myron Waller, Robert Zombach, and Harriet Zombach. May all their names and the names we hold so dear to our heart be with us now, on our lips, and bound to our souls as we rise for the El Malei Rachamim on page 598.
El Malei Rachamim, shochen במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה. אם קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר רקיע מזהירים, לנשמת יקירינו, שהלכו לעולמם. ברחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור החיים את נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוחו בשלום, בשלום על משכבם.